They called him the wisest man in Athens. His response? I'm only wise because I know that I know nothing. Around 400 BC, in the busy streets of ancient Athens, there was a man who never wrote a single book, never built a school, never charged money for his teachings. Yet he changed philosophy forever. His name was Socrates, and he figured out something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. That you can't understand anything in the world until you understand yourself first. And most of us don't have a clue who we really are. Here's what's crazy. We live in the most connected time in human history. You can learn anything in seconds. You can talk to anyone, anywhere. You can access more information than every ancient library combined. But most people know more about their favorite celebrities than they know about themselves. Socrates saw this same problem 2,400 years ago. People walked around thinking they knew things, thinking they understood life, thinking they had it figured out. But when Socrates started asking them questions, really simple questions, their knowledge fell apart. They realized they didn't actually know what they thought they knew, and that's exactly what he wanted. Because Socrates believed that wisdom starts with one honest admission, I don't know. Until you can say those 3 words, you can't learn anything real. You're just collecting opinions and calling them facts. But it goes deeper than that. Socrates wasn't just trying to expose ignorance. He was trying to get people to look inward, to stop focusing on the outside world for a second and ask the most important question: who am I really? In ancient Athens, everyone had an opinion. Politicians argued in the assembly. Philosophers debated in the markets. Teachers sold wisdom for money. Everyone claimed to know the truth about justice, courage, virtue, and how to live a good life. It was loud, it was crowded. It was full of people pretending to be wise. Socrates walked through all of this and asked one question over and over. But do you really know what you're talking about? And more importantly, do you know yourself well enough to trust your own judgments? This made people furious. Because nobody wants to admit they might be wrong. Nobody wants to face the possibility that they've been living on autopilot, following beliefs they never questioned, making decisions based on feelings they don't understand. But Socrates didn't care if people got upset. He kept pushing, kept asking, kept forcing people to examine their own thoughts. And the method he used was brilliant. He didn't lecture. He didn't tell people what to think. He asked questions, simple questions that revealed everything. Questions like, you say you value courage, but what is courage exactly? You say you want justice, but can you define it? You say you know yourself, but have you ever actually looked? Most people couldn't answer. They'd stumble. They'd get frustrated. They'd realize they'd been using words their whole life without understanding what they meant. And in that moment of confusion, something powerful happened. They started thinking for themselves. Maybe for the first time ever. There's this famous story about Socrates and the oracle at Delphi. Someone went to the oracle and asked who the wisest man in Greece was. The oracle said Socrates. When Socrates heard this, he was confused. He didn't feel wise. He felt like he knew nothing. So he went around Athens talking to people who were supposed to be wise. Politicians, poets, craftsmen, teachers. He asked them questions about their expertise. And he discovered something shocking. They all thought they knew way more than they actually did. They were confident, but their confidence was based on nothing solid. Socrates realized why the oracle called him the wisest. Not because he knew more, but because he knew he didn't know. Everyone else was walking around blind, but thought they could see. Socrates was blind and knew it. That awareness made all the difference. And then he took this idea even further. He said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Think about how extreme that statement is. He's not saying the unexamined life is less fulfilling, or that it's missing something. He's saying it's not worth living at all. Why? Because if you never examine yourself, if you never question your beliefs, your desires, your fears, your motivations, then you're not really living. You're just reacting. You're just following programming. You're a passenger in your own life. Socrates wanted people to wake up, to become conscious, to stop sleepwalking through existence. And the only way to do that was to turn inward, to ask the hard questions, to face the uncomfortable truths. He would ask people, why do you want money? They'd say, to be happy. He'd ask, what is happiness? They'd struggle to answer. He'd ask, if you don't know what happiness is, how do you know money will give it to you? And suddenly they'd realize they'd been chasing something they couldn't even define. Or he'd ask, why are you angry? They'd say, because someone disrespected them. He'd ask, why does disrespect bother you? They'd say, because they deserve respect. He'd ask, why do you deserve it? And layer by layer, he de-peeled back the beliefs until people saw that they de-built their entire identity on ideas they never questioned. This is what know yourself means. It's not some surface-level thing like knowing your favorite color or your personality type. It's about understanding why you think what you think, why you want what you want, why you fear what you fear. It's about seeing the invisible programming running your life. And here's the kicker. Most people never do this. They live their entire lives running programs they didn't choose. Programs installed by parents, society, culture, trauma, random experiences, and they think those programs are who they are. Socrates wanted to break that spell. He wanted people to see that they're not their thoughts. They're not their emotions. They're not their beliefs. They're the awareness behind all of that. And once you realize that, everything changes. Now, let's bring this into your world. Because this isn't just ancient philosophy. This is the key to every single thing you're struggling with right now. You're stressed. Ask yourself, why am I stressed? What am I afraid will happen? Why does that scare me? What belief am I holding that makes this situation threatening? Keep asking until you hit something real. Something you never noticed before. You're chasing a goal. Ask yourself, why do I want this? What do I think it will give me? Is that actually true? Am I chasing what I really want or what I think I should want? Who decided this goal matters? Did I or did someone else? You're angry at someone. Ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? What button did they push? Why do I have that button? What past experience created it? Am I angry at them or at something unresolved in myself? This is Socratic questioning. And it's the most powerful tool you have. Because every problem you face is rooted in something inside you. Not the external situation. The internal reaction to it, and you can't change that reaction until you understand it, and you can't understand it until you examine it. Most people avoid this. They stay busy, they distract themselves, they blame others, they focus on fixing the outside world. Anything to avoid looking inward. Because looking inward is uncomfortable. It means admitting you might be wrong. It means facing parts of yourself you've been hiding from. But Socrates knew that discomfort is the price of wisdom. You can't grow without it. You can't change without it. You can't become who you're capable of being without it. He also understood something else. That knowing yourself isn't a one-time thing. It's a practice. A daily practice. Because you're always changing. New experiences, new beliefs, new fears, new desires. If you're not constantly examining yourself, You lose touch with who you actually are. You become a stranger to yourself. Think about how many people have no idea why they do what they do. They're anxious but don't know why. They're unhappy but can't explain it. They want things but don't know what they really want. They're at war with themselves and don't even realize it. Socrates would say, this is the worst kind of ignorance. Not knowing that you don't know yourself, because it means you're living someone else's life, following someone else's values, chasing someone else's dreams, and calling it your own. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones with the most knowledge. They're the ones with the most self-awareness. They know their strengths and weaknesses. They know their triggers. They know what they value and why. They know what drives them and what drains them. They've done the inner work. And that work starts with one question. The same question Socrates asked everyone. Do you really know yourself? Not the version you present to others. Not the version you wish you were. The real you. The one that shows up when no one's watching. The one that makes decisions when you're scared. The one that reacts when you're triggered. That's who you need to know. Because that's who's running your life. And if you don't know them, you can't control them. You can't guide them. You can't change them. You're just along for the ride. Socrates died for this philosophy. The people in power got tired of him asking questions. Tired of him making citizens think for themselves. So they put him on trial for corrupting the youth. They gave him a choice. Stop teaching or drink poison. He chose poison, because he believed that a life without self-examination wasn't worth living anyway. That's how important this was to him. He literally died rather than stop asking people to know themselves. And 2,400 years later, his message is still here. Still relevant. Still the answer to almost everything. Because you can read every book, take every course, follow every guru, but if you don't know yourself, none of it will stick. None of it will work. You'll just be collecting more information to pile on top of the confusion. But if you start with self-knowledge, everything else falls into place. You make better decisions because you understand your biases. You build better relationships because you understand your patterns. You set better goals because you understand your values. You handle problems better because you understand your reactions. Know yourself first. That's the key Socrates found. That's the key that unlocks everything else. Subscribe for more timeless truths.